Hello. So, recently the question has been asked in a few videos of how do you improve at team fighting? There's several different videos where different people in the professional esports scene were asked this question and they didn't really, seem to have a clear answer or immediately. But that's not the really problem. The fact that they didn't know the answer isn't really a big deal. What I'm concerned with is the idea that it was never asked before. Now, this wasn't too much of a surprise to me, but mainly because of how solo queue worked, you don't really deal too in depth with team fighting because you can't trust or expect anything from the other players. So that wasn't a surprise. It was just a surprise that nobody actually had seemed to ask the question before. And I've been watching League of Legends pro scene for since the start of season 2, so it's concerning. Anyway, let's go into this. Immediately, your first question should be, why am I making this video? And how is it that I know how to team fight? Because clearly I'm not in the professional scene, but I've been playing in theory crafting and team-based RPG style PvP games and for almost 15 years. It's the games that I really enjoy, but what's important is it's PvP and it's RPG style, which is exactly what this is. And it hasn't been the same game that I've been playing. I haven't been playing one game for 15 years. I've been playing tons of them. So I've been very much used to changing game mechanics, changing metas, like basically adapting to the different situations that come about, and working with groups of people because they're all team-based games. I've also been playing League of Legends since season 1, so I'm very familiar with the game. I've been really into the pro scene since season 2, and I really enjoy a lot of the aspects of it. And I really don't like how North America is like the worst region out of the big 4. Um, so yeah, I also have 2 engineering degrees, so I understand problem solving, and that's essentially what this is. One thing I haven't done before is make videos. So as you can tell by my wonderful headset mic and my fantastic laptop camera, this is new, and you're just gonna have to bear with me on this. Anyways, let's go to the slide. There should only be 2 slides. They're over here. There should only be 2 slides. This one and the next one explain why planning is important, and in-game planning is basically what needs to be done, and it needs to be done extensively. And planning is going to help you win fights, and that's why you have to do it. And it has to be in-game because you have to know what your opponent's team comp is and what champions they're running in order to plan a team fight for it. So you can't have coaches do this. Someone in game's going to have to do this. I'm going to go over that later. But planning is how you win and execute good fights, and then reviewing is how you improve the plan, and that's basically how you improve team fighting. Why planning? Because in a team fight, you need to have expectations of what your teammates are going to do so you can optimize your ability. Why do you need to have the expectations, and why you can't just wait for someone to tell you what to do is team fights happen in a period of seconds. A team fight will usually take like 10 seconds at the most, and the decisive moments will happen in under a second. So you can't be sitting there, like an idiot, waiting for your shot caller to tell you, hey, I need you to cast your ultimate on this target at this time. Not this time, like right now. I need you to cast your ultimate this guy right now because he's in good position to land your ultimate. And then like the time they told me to tell you to do that, he's not in a position anymore. So we have to have ahead of time players need to know that I'm expected to do this in the fight, so my teammates can base off of that. If you have somebody that's expected to knock their AD carry out of the fight, as your AD carry, you can actually flash into the middle of the fight because their AD carry is not going to be there killing you, so you can flash in and kill their mid laner while their AD carry is being knocked out and controlled by your friendly Alistar, and who's going to exhaust the AD carry if he gets within range, and you can feel confident that you can do this. Whereas if you did it in solo queue, you would instantly die, and people would say you're fucking terrible and get the fuck out of there. We have seen good teams at team fighting. That's what the second part is. How they're doing it now is by repeatedly fighting together until they intuitively know how players react. This works. Prime example of this is LMQ and Tip. They can't actually communicate. It'd be very hard for them to set up very detailed plans, but because these teams are so aggressive, they have a lot of experience fighting together, and that's something that they gain by being aggressive, and they actually get better at team fights quicker, but this whole method in general means once a patch comes, once meta switches, you lose that intuitive expectations because you can't rely on some of the things because they've been changed or made weaker. Generally, it would be easier after a patch if you're doing this method and you're good at this method to rebound, but in general, you're going to just plummet to bad if you been doing this, and that's what we're seeing a lot. Is once a patch comes, once a meta switch happens, the teams that were good in the previous meta, they just plummet to nothing because their same methods and intuitive knowledge of how each other reacts to a team fight changes, and now all of a sudden you're getting like real clashes of abilities, and you're not really optimizing your stuff too well. Alright, the first step is planning. To show this whole process, we're going to be using this IM versus Najin game, and we'll be doing this from IM's perspective. Now, with the actual planning itself, it needs to be done after champion select. It's going to be changing throughout the game based upon item pickups and players that get fed and things like that. So you're really going to want to have a player who's in charge of this, or you can work with how you'd actually want to do it on a team. So let's get into how do we start planning. Step 1 is identifying threats. While this can include many different types of abilities, we're just going to be doing the most important thing, which is damage. On our team IM, we have Orianna and Corki, while Najin has Victor and Cog. These are our primary targets, and they are major concerns throughout the entire fight. The next step is going to be engage. This can get a lot more complicated, and it's not really in the scope of this video, so we're just going to go with that IM needs to zone Kog'Maw on engage and try to set Victor up for killing. That's the general concept behind it. We're just going to leave it at that. Now, this starts to turn into role assignments right from the engage, because someone's going to have to do this. First of all, the engage is going to be Ignar that's doing this. He can zone Kog'Maw and survive the damage with his ultimate, so those are two things he needs to know that he can do. He also has exhaust, and because he has exhaust, he can throw this down onto the first enemy carry that gets within range to deal damage to our carries, which is going to be important for later on, and that's basically how you want to be using exhaust. Next, Corki. He's our sustained damage, and since this is a dragon fight, we're going to generally want him to be attacking dragon. If dragon's not there or dead, we want him to be attacking the front line and waiting to follow up on the Orianna ult, which is our major burst damage. So he's our sustained damage. His job is, the janitor to clean up everything, so he's the follow up on the burst. Orianna. She's the primary burst, and we want her to burst the first carry that gets in range to deal damage to either Corki or herself. This is doubled on the fact that Alistar is going to be exhausting the same person, so she can feel fairly confident that he's not going to be able to get out of there unless he has a flash to burn and notices Orianna ult going into him. So then we can go to Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai, he needs to stay near the dragon, and since Ignar is going to be going in, he can double as the peel for the carries. If their Gragas or their Maokai comes in and tries to mess with our carries, then Rek'Sai can knock them up, CC them, and deal some damage to them too. They're tanks, but I generally try to protect these guys, while Ignar, who would normally do that, he's off in the front of the team zoning the Kog'Maw out. Gnar, since he has a teleport, he's the teleport flanker, and we're just going to want him to flex, kind of fill in if any of these other roles or jobs fails, like maybe Orianna doesn't kill Victor and there's like poor Sunstar follow up or something, he can jump in and kill that, or if Ignar dies and Kog'Maw is about to come back in the fight, he can start zoning Kog'Maw, or I don't know, take the dragon if Deucen dies, but he's not going to take the dragon, it'll be Sunstar. So that's pretty much the roles, and we've written them here just to plan. You can't obviously do this in game, but it's going to be important for after to actually know what everyone is going to be doing. Exhaust, carry, cog. Alright, so that's the plan. It's important to note that everyone has a role, and what's even more important than the fact that everyone has a role is that everyone on the team knows what everyone else's roles are going to be, so they can have expectations. We have really simple expectation here that Ori is going to feel safe going really aggressive on Victor because Ignar is going to exhaust him, and she can feel confident that even if Victor drops an ult on her head, he's going to be exhausted and it's not going to be doing as much damage, and she's going to be able to win the trade amongst the team fight. And that's the most vital part about the planning, is that your teammates understand what you're going to be doing so that you can start synergizing stuff. And now we can move on to the actual fight and then the review after it. Alright, step 2 would be the fight. But we're not going to look at the fight because when we actually go through the review for the example that we're using, we're going to get into it. But first, let's outline the whole review process. So, step 1, the coaches and the analysts would need to look through the comms, listen to the comms, and come out with what the team's plan was and write it down. That's why we wrote it down to the side here. Write down what their roles were, engages, and also probably want to identify threats and things like that. Write it all down, have it ready for when you're actually talking to players. Also, what coaches probably want to do when it's live, instead of just watching the game, is coming up with your own plans that you're going to then, lay against the team's plan and see if there's differences, see if you guys are thinking the same, see if you think they should change their plan, or if they have comments about your plan. It can help you just like evolve better as a coach-team synergy sort of, but that's not, I wouldn't say that would be required. So once you have the plans, you can move on to the actual review, and we're going to talk about some of the questions you're going to want to be asking in order to help the team improve and identifying situations where you can and where you can't. And that's the big thing through this whole thing. First most important question, did they actually follow the plan? If they didn't follow the plan, you can't use anything because it's pretty worthless. It's kind of like, oh, you did this, you could do that to win this fight, you could flash here. That's not going to help you win any future fights necessarily unless it's like exact same situation, but it's not really going to ever be the exact same situation. So did they follow the plan? Yes, hopefully, and you move on to the actual important questions. After the did they follow the plan, did they win the fight? Although this question is not super vital, it's going to affect the actual planning, because if they didn't win the fight, was it because the plan was bad or was it because of these other reasons? And that's what we're going to get into now. What are there's 3 main areas you can kind of ask, and one is like, was it mechanical problems? Did you miss ultimates? Did you have bad flashes? Did you just fail to execute on synergy plays that you're thinking of, like an Orianna ball engage with Alistar, something like that? And when you identify those, they're mechanical issues. You can't really, it's not anything that's going to affect planning and stuff like that. You just like, player, okay, go practice more. Maybe you're not used to the champion as much as you thought you were, so just play it more until you understand. So that's the first important question, mechanical problems. Second, plan problems. This is where the real learning is going to come from and the real improving is going to come from. So did your plan work? What things were not in the plan that surprised you? What things were unexpected? And you're going to take these things and you're going to put them in the future plannings and future fights, and you're just going to be ready. Also, because you're breaking it down to such a smaller level, you're going to be identifying things that certain abilities, like a disengage from Gragas, well, Azir can do that too, Jenna can do that too. So now you have this whole category of champions that you might start identifying based off of one fight where there was only one of those champions in the fight. Like, oh, Gragas did this disengage. Well, we want to avoid that or be prepared for that. Oh, by the way, Azir can do it too, Jenna can do it too, and you can see how you can start improving off of that. And that's really the core of it right there. And then the last question, it goes right back to the first question: did a player stop following the plan, or did they just decide fuck it all, I'm not going to follow the plan. And this question is really important. It's also what's probably even more important is to understand that if the player didn't follow the plan because he couldn't follow the plan, that's not related to this question. That's more of a mechanical or plan issue. Was the sustained damage carry zoned out of the fight? Could he not actually get into the fight because of what the other team was doing? That's not him saying, fuck, I'm not going to follow this plan. I'm just zoned out of the fight. And that's important too because them not following the plan is more of a conscious decision that says, like, I don't respect this plan, I don't like this, I'm just not going to do it. And that gets more into sports psychology and team interaction and stuff like that, which we're not really going to be covering. So now we can actually get into this review, and we're going to be looking at the 3 main points, which is mechanical problems, plan problems, or player issues. And the very first thing you'd want to do, well, if you were looking at a player, you'd want to cross-reference over here, like, okay, Ignar, he's going to be responsible for zoning cog, exhaust carry, and then watch the fight looking at the specific player. But since we're just going to do this once, we're going to kind of look for the fight as a whole. So the first thing we'd want to do is look at engage, which is going to be Ignar, and we're just going to play it out and kind of wait until we have something that we can consider and engage. And this right there is what it is. Alright, it watch. He's supposed to be going for these two. He's actually in range to knock him out, but now Ignar, he's in position to zone, which when we go back to the plan, that's what we want him to be doing. So it's pretty good. You could go more into why it's kind of overextending, and he hit the Gragas too, but that's more related to what they were doing with the dragon, and since they're not actually running my plan, I don't want to comment too much about it. So there he goes, pops his ult, does this, Sonstar's on here. We could comment about Frozen not being out here waiting for the Ignar and Goong. The plan to ult Goong as soon as he comes in range, but right now they're more concerned with the dragon. Tusins with the carry, he gets hooked, either he dodged or he planned to take it. It looked more like Sonstar dodge, and Ignar zoning. This is what we want. As the fight goes on, we can say, alright, Frozen backed off, but he's getting zoned by both Thresh and Goong, so he can't actually do that pressure that we were planning. He can't actually poke on Goong. These two guys waiting out here. Expression came in, and we're kind of letting him decide what he wants to do because it's part of the plan. It's like fill failing roll or do whatever, and he's just helping with the dragon now. So that's going along with the plan. Everyone's basically going along with the plan right now, and it's looking good. Ignar is still zoning OQ, zoning Kog'Maw, which is what we want. Still watching. The zone stopped stuff. Alright, dragon dies. This is the first big point. First of all, we didn't get the dragon. That's a problem right there. So we didn't get the dragon. Was Tucson not able to get it? Or did he just fail his smite? Duke got it with a sapling, so like there's a lot of questions going, like what happened. Watch did knock him back with the barrel, but we're not really sure. We'll go back into that. And now Sonstar decides to push up, which is good. Everyone's still zoning. Ignar is still zoning OQ. He's in nowhere near the fight, and Goong was actually closer here, and Ignar exhausted him. That's exactly what we want to happen. What hasn't happened is the ball and the Orianna ult on Goong right now. But as we can see, the ball is moving there, so Orianna is trying to do that. So he's like, everyone's still kind of following the plan. Now we notice Sonstar is running backwards. This isn't part of the plan. Sonstar is supposed to put pressure and follow up on anything that happens. Any ults. There hasn't been any ults. We're still engaged in a fight here. So Sonstar really needs to be pressuring Duke and Watch. They got Watch off. Piers right here. He could be hitting all of that. He's shooting rockets, but he's not using his auto attacks. And his auto attacks are what his real pressure is. So we noticed Orianna ults. She tried to ult Goong, but it didn't happen. So that's another major issue, mechanical issue. Orianna ult missed. So this looks pretty bad for us. Ignar dies. We're still trapped in the pit. We get pure, but that's not too concerning because remember our major threats are Goong and OQ, who are right here coming at us, and that's where we see Gnar start filling into Ignar's role of zoning OQ. Mind you, he went right for OQ. He didn't actually go for Goong. Maybe he went for both of them with his stun, but he was mainly going for OQ because OQ has to be zoned out of the fight. He did have the ball, but that doesn't really matter because the ultimate's gone. So, and now Son starts pressuring, but better late than never, but it's still a problem. And the fight's disengaged. That was the whole fight. I went through it really fast, so I wrote down over here the 3 main issues. Orianna ult missed, lost dragon, and Sonstar not pressuring as soon as the dragon died. Those are the only issues you come out of the fight, and you highlight them right away. You probably have a quick 10-minute discussion about it. Now, that's all. You go on to the next fights, because if you're coming out of the week, if you're doing coming out of the week matches, or even coming out of the day scrims and reviewing them, then you just you move on. You're gonna have a lot of games, a lot of fights. You want this stuff to be done quick. That's why you want to have like really structured and be like boom, boom, boom. Coaches be ready. Like you don't even really have to watch the review. You don't even really have to like review it before you review it with the team. Just like watch the game and plan for some of this stuff. And that's the whole review process. And just those 3 points. It's pretty easy. Of course, you're going to need to know game knowledge. I didn't actually go into a lot of team fighting stuff. Every examples I chose were really simple in this. Clearly Gragas has disengage, and you can understand the concept that Azir and Janna both have that same disengage. Those are like the simplest things you can possibly understand. So again, this is about the method to improve. And I think I'm going to finish the video with a slide that just has the whole outline of this. I think I said 2 slides at the beginning, so this is a 3rd slide. Just a little added in there at the end. So there you go. Hopefully teams can get better.